Good afternoon and welcome to this Pacifica Graduate Institute pre-conference conversation focused on depth leadership in changing times. I'm Laura Lee Scott, Senior Director of Pacifica Extension, and I am honored today to welcome Dr. Leonie Madison and Mr. Berg for an important conversation leading to our upcoming conference, Psychedelics and Individuation, Conversations with Jungian Analysts based on the book edited by Lionel Corbett and Leslie Stein and recently published by Chiron. First, a little bit about both Mr. Berg and Dr. Leonie Madison. Mr. Berg is the president-elect of the International Association for Analytical Psychology, the leading and globally recognized professional membership organization representing Jungian psychology, and Dr. Madison is the president and chief executive officer of Pacifica Graduate Institute. Mr. was co-founder of the Danish Society for Analytical Psychology and maintains a private practice in Denmark, in addition to teaching and lecturing for institutes and organizations around the world. Dr. Madison is president and CEO of Pacifica Graduate Institute, where she is pursuing an ambitious vision of making depth psychological education accessible to all. Dr. Lee and Mr., I don't think it's overstating to say that this upcoming conference is historic on many levels. It represents a joint partnership with your respective organizations, and it also represents the first global convening of analysts in order to talk through considerations and possible protocols for integrating the use of psychedelics into analytic practice. And in the context of our conversation today, I think it also reflects your individual commitment as leaders to staying on the forward-thinking edge of scholarship and research that addresses the multiple challenges of life in the 21st century. So thank you both and welcome today.
Thank you, Laura Lee.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
So let's start with a little bit of maybe your backstories, a little bit about the two of you as women growing up and coming of age in different parts of the world. But I think there's a lot of commonalities with the two of you. You both sit at the helm of organizations who are navigating tumultuous waters on many levels. Mr. Berg, as president of the IAAP, you are charting a path forward for Jungian psychoanalysts around the world in the midst of the atrocities of war on multiple fronts, in addition to the challenges of our contemporary world. And Dr. Lee, you were mapping out a visionary strategic plan for Pacifica Graduate Institute during what some are saying is one of the most challenging times in the history of higher education. So can you both please share from maybe some of your own personal experiences of growing up and coming of age as women in different parts of the world, what you feel has contributed to your strengths as leaders in these challenging times?
Well, I grew up in a middle-class family. I was first educated as an architect, and I was for many, many years an architect. I worked very much on, I worked very much at that time, architecture was much more a male occupation. Now they're more female architects, but at that time, I started in a firm where we were 100 architects or 102 architects, 2 women, 100 men, and I worked very much with men. So in a way, I have been I've been trained into this quite patriarchal leadership system, which was then gave me a big crisis. So then I went into analysis. And I must say that for me, being the one I am here today has to do with my analysis. It was through my analysis I found out that I wanted to be myself an analyst. I still worked for a long time as an architect, and I also became partner in an architect firm. So I have been for many years. I've been in leading positions like that. So, but then at the same time, I had beside my own practice, and I must say, for me, it's for me personally, it has to do with Well, it has to do with individuation, which is also the theme of the conference, because it has to do with becoming who you are, and how do you do that? I think, and also now you speak about also the challenges we have now and how can we cope with that. That also has to do with individuation and the ability to sort of to contain the opposites inside yourself and outside yourself also. So I think for me, analysis has been the most, and of course my education as such, but also the life as it has been, because I learned, of course, I learned a lot of things during these many years in architecture, and in the leading position in architecture. I learned a lot about money and budgets and leadership and organization like that. So in that way, that was also good. But I must say, it's the personal path, and I feel that's where I should be. So thank you very much. That's for me.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Architecture. Wow. I would have never imagined weaving those two things together. Jungian an analyst as an architect. Beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. I was reflecting on the question, and I am going to go way back into my childhood here. So I like to talk about this colorful tapestry of my life. And I weave together what I think has been resilience threads of, I call it the blessings, burdens, the beauty, and the blackness. And that's the tapestry of the essence of my identity. It's also rooted in this crucible of my Jamaican upbringing. My parents are Jamaican immigrants, and they instilled in me this unwavering belief and commitment to their faith and the transformative power of faith, community, and education. Now, those were some of the things that established the bedrock of my leadership and how I show up as a leader. I grew up in as you can hear from my accent, I'm Jamaican. So I grew up in a resource-limited Jamaican community. And part of my daily life or upbringing really involved barefoot walks. It was a ritual as part of my profound journey. So we would walk for essentials such as water, food. We walked to the shop. We walked to the farm. We walked to school many miles. We walked to church. And we also walked for community connection. And so that unfolded as part of my journey. Amidst all of that, I also have experienced and still carry scars of trauma, severe trauma, in fact. And this experience has become part of who I am as a leader. It shapes my understanding of choice. And it has over the years sparked a profound capacity to dream. If Laura Lee can affirm to this, I am a visionary. I love to dream and share these big ideas. So I'm a creative. It has also shaped how I live consciously and uncover what I call the blessings amid adversity. And so when I migrated to the US and was introduced to new threads in my life journey, a narrative that marked what I believe was one of the most transformative experiences of my life was when I had to navigate the higher education system here in the United States. And in addition to that, I've experienced this heightened societal, unrealistic expectations of us as female leaders who are oftentimes, especially women of color, who are oftentimes put in position where we're navigating predominantly white spaces, and that creates trauma within itself. So within this weaving, my Blackness now emerged not as a burden, and that's the beauty of individuation, but as a wellspring of strength, resiliency, and a unique beauty that's shaping the very core of my identity. So to sum that up, leading Pacifica as a first generation scholar, as a woman of color, as a mother, and as president and CEO, I see the fusion of these complex, the challenges that we're faced with in higher education. And we talk about these complexities, referring to the ever-growing needs of our student population, the financial hurdles that we're constantly having to address, coupled with state regulations. When I think about things such as navigating through the changes in our world, and I know we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this, I have to say that my upbringing, the lessons that I learned from my upbringing, the values that my parents instilled in me, all of that weaves into the leader that I show up as every single day. Show up with soul. I love Pacifica community. I love people, period. And I value leadership because I've seen the power of being yourself. Whether you're an architect, weaving in architecture into Jungian, analyst as a practice, or showing up with this deep rootedness of someone who grew up around scarcity, but I don't lead from a scarcity mindset. I believe in abundance. And one of the things that I wrote in my journal this morning that I want to share, Laura-Lee, as my response to this question is that my encouragement to fellow soul seekers and seers and healers is that as we're guiding amidst the tumultuous currents of our times, I encourage all of us to continue to draw strength from the depths of our complex fabric, because it is pretty complex for some of us, but there's strength there, and to recognize that our collective journey unfolds in this rich and magnificent interplay of diversity, and we have the power of choice, and we can weave our own narratives that reveals the transformative power of embracing who we are and embracing the diversity and nature of our experiences. So that's who I am. That's how I came to be, pulling from my past, recognizing what's happening in this moment, and then always looking ahead at what's coming and weaving those things together on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. It's amazing listening. And again, I wish we could go deeper into your stories, but it's amazing listening to both of you, how you each have integrated and woven together these experiences, some of which have been challenging. The only woman in a group of 100 men. Dr. Lee, you talk often and have written a book relative to navigating your way through profound trauma. You both went into analysis and you talk openly about that. And that was probably, for both of you, it's a catalyst for where you went on to from there. So, there's a real common ground emerging in your stories. So if we can talk a little bit now, moving from kind of the personal into leadership. Everyone loves to talk about leadership, right? We all love to talk about leadership, but I'm sure you both know the agony and the pain of leadership, as well as the joys and the blessings and the rewards. Can you each talk to or speak to why you think depth psychologically informed leadership, if there is such a thing, right? But is there such a thing? If we bring the experiences and the knowledge that you each have into your roles as leaders, what sets it apart do you think? What sets a depth psychologically informed leadership model apart from other leadership models?
Well, should I go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Please.
Well, again, I think, I think it's a very, very big question.
I know.
I was thinking immediately about, one of the most important concepts in analytical psychology that Jung founded is the transcendent function. And the transcendent function, I think, is very, very important also for individuation, but I think also it's very important because it is the bridge building function. It's the one that can find a way, and it's a creative process also to find this way between opposites, and the ability to bridge between oppositions, which is really very much what we have to do in these days, because things are so polarized and we need to contain everything. We need to do our best to contain the opposites here. I think that's very important also for leadership. I think that's what, because that is what brings people together. And I also like very much what you said, Dr. Lee. Also, I would like to say that I have always, when thinking back about how I have been working, I've always been working in groups. I've always been leading in groups. Now I'm the president, but I have a group of officers. We have 5 officers. By the way, the first time we're all women, which is exceptionally, and it will probably be one time. Once in a lifetime. I think next time there will come men again, and I'm only the 4th female president of the IP. So, but for it's just pure, I don't know, luck, chance, that we're women. But we are a group of women. When I was a partner in the firm, we were 7 partners, 2 women and 5 men, and I've also grown up in a commune. I still live in a commune, a little more family commune now. And I've also played in music bands, in rock bands. So I've always been working in groups and having also leading positions in these groups. But for me, it's been so important to have the community together, and I think that's also something that's, we're not the single top leader just putting down orders from top. We're working together, I think, and I think this is very much also what we can as Jungian analysts, as depth psychologists. I think that's very much what we can do with our knowledge, and also what I said at the beginning, the transcendent function, to bring and to find creative bridges between opposites. So, yes, I think this is what I would like. This was what I thought about when I saw the question. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Lee.
Wow, the first woman president at the IAAP?
No, not the fourth woman president. Fourth. But now we have a group of 5 officers. So president-elect, and 2 vice presidents, and on-sec. They're all women for the first time. But I'm the 4th female president. Yeah. So I had some forerunners, but still there were many men before me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Laura Lee and Mr. Berg, just listening to your response to the question, what came up for me, I don't think it's luck, by the way. I think timing is everything. But I think us serving in these roles, Laura Lee, these really complex, we're leading complex organizations, and we're serving as mirrors in some ways to women who aspire, right, to these roles, we're serving as role models to folks that we probably will never, ever meet in this lifetime. So when I saw the question and think about leadership, and I absolutely love leadership, I'm going to shift my response to sharing about what that looks like here at Pacifica, in terms of this particular, and Laurelie, I also thought about that this is a potential new course through Pacifica Extension and International Studies. I'm like, is she trying to put together a course here?
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there. I knew. I'm like, as soon as I put it out there, I'm like, she's going to come back to me and say, this needs to be a certificate course.
Because I see this particular role of depth psychoanalytical leadership as a guiding light, right? This is a leadership approach that offers this nuance, understanding, and insight. And we often at Pacifica talk about how soul has been vacuumed out of mainstream education, out of organizations, right? It's been vacuumed. And so I see this leadership approach as this beacon to untangling the intricate tapestry of the human experience, right? And the transcending, as Mr. Berg spoke to, the confines of the unconscious and the conscious dynamics. And then this leadership approach being as part of shaping responses, right? On both individual and collective levels. Now, I thought about this also in the context of the mental health crisis and the role of, say, for example, an HR leader, right? Imagine an HR leader informed by depth psychology and how they approach the challenges that they are often bombarded with, whether it's the challenge, because I always say HR deals with the head, the heart, the hands, right? Everything having to do with the whole person. HR deals with life, when there's a birth, when there's an illness, when there's a sickness, promotion, you name it. Now imagine an HR leader, inspired, informed, trained in depth psychology, and them approaching these challenges with a more soul-centered understanding of the underlying psychological factors contributing to individual struggles. So instead of merely addressing surface level symptoms, we're looking for leaders who knows how to delve into the root causes, right? Acknowledging the interplay of unconscious forces such as trauma, understanding the role that societal pressures and personal history plays in how our employees show up on a daily basis, right? So when I think about this concept of the depth psychological leader, I see someone who is more targeted and aware of the power of empathetic interventions, right? Interventions that foster holistic understanding, holistic approaches that cultivate and even expand consciousness, right? And so when we are having problem-solving, brainstorming conversations, it's coming from a place of soulness, it's soulful, it's nurturing, right? Even when it's difficult, right? We're holding the opposite, but we're learning through the process. Last thing I'll share here is at Pacifica, for example, we're currently working on a campus utilization study. And as part of this process, we have put together a task force. And on the task force, we have leadership, faculty, and staff. Now, what I love about this makeup is that each group, community member, they bring their own individual perspective and expertise to the table. Now, when we think about campus utilization, right, a campus study, we're looking at what? The climate. So if we as leaders, right, are not inspired by depth psychology, we're going to go at this study from what? From the head, void of the consciousness around the importance of understanding that when we're confronting a climate crisis, it's so important to recognize the psychological dimensions that's inherent in ecological challenges, and that our collective relationships with our environment, it mirrors the intricacies of our inner psyche. And that's the beauty, the power of having faculty at the table with us, because they're constantly reminding us of these dynamics. So again, we're not going at it from a headspace, but we're being more conscious and aware, right? And there's a heightened awareness of when we're working on these strategies, that we're addressing external manifestations, and that we're engaging with a deeper, more maybe latent psychological factors, right? That's contributing to the environmental crisis that we are all having to observe, see, live with, and we're exploring interventions and innovations about how we evolve beyond where we are.
You know, it's interesting listening to both of you, Mr. Berg, listening to you talk about the collaboration, your collaborative leadership style, which certainly models Dr. Lee's style as well. It is very collaborative. And I think that flies in the face of how women historically have been stereotyped as catty and competitive and not able to maintain friendships, right? It flies in the face of these patriarchal stereotypes. And I think it's rooted in a deeper archetypal reality that women do knit together societies in times of war, in times of oppression, in times of trauma. Women historically, even when they weren't allowed access to the political places of power, they were the fabric that held communities together in the kinds of times that I think we are in now. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the two of you are at the helm, and that you both, I think, are bringing other women as well as men, as well as diversity into the room with you to model this. And I think there's a lot more that can be mined here moving forward from a depth perspective, and working, as Dr. Lee is saying, as leaders, working with that constant, not only the understanding of the unconscious currents that are influencing not only an individual who's just experienced archetypal birth or death, but also those unconscious currents that influence organizations, the collective, right? Being able as a leader to identify it and work with it. All right, so we have one question left. I said I gave you 4 questions. We're only going to be able to get to 3, and we're already over our 30-minute limit. So we will wrap it up with this final question. This upcoming conference, that is a joint conference with the IAAP and Pacifica on psychedelics and individuation, as I mentioned in the introduction, it is historic. It does represent a joint partnership, but it, I think, is indicative of a number of other things. So, Mr. Berg, can you lead this question off with sharing why you feel this topic is relevant for the IAAP membership and for the times that we're in? And then Dr. Lee, if you can follow that with speaking to how this conference aligns with your vision for forward-thinking scholarship and research at Pacifica.
Yes, I'd be very happy to do that. I think at it in 2 different levels for the IAP and for our Jungian psychology, because I think it's necessary to know about it. It's necessary that people, train candidates, and also colleagues know about this, because people are experimenting on themselves, and some of them are not trained in it, and some. So it's very important that candidates and also analysts know something about what this opens up to, and what can happen in that. So a basic knowledge is very important. So this is one thing. But the other thing is understanding of the use of psychedelics to open up the use of it, because it's because it opens up to another world, and this is a world where we as Jungians are specialists also. So in a way, it's also we understand, or at least, yeah, and we are very fascinated by this mystical experiences, by the numinosity, and by the individuation purposes that lie in that also. So I think it's twofold. It's both necessary that we know about it, because it needs some, for some people it needs some guidance, but it also opens up to something that is very fantastic. So in that way, I think it's, and this is an area that we are already very, very, very professional in, but of course yes. So I think for me it's very, very exciting. This is the first conference on this topic. I think it's so exciting. I really look forward to it. I must say, I think it's so important, and I really congratulate you for having organized this, and I'm very happy that we could partner in it. So thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and a shout out to our own Lionel Corbett, and of course to Leslie Stein, who
Sure.
who started and had the idea to put together the book, and then came to us and said, hey, would you be interested in this? So thank you to them. So Dr. Lee, why and how does this theme align with your strategic vision, which I am intimately supportive of and connected with, but how does it align with your vision for forward-thinking scholarship and research at Pacifica?
Well, again, I also thank you for leading the charge in terms of this conference and all the work that you're doing behind the scenes, you and your team. So thank you, and thank you for putting this conversation together. And Mr. Erberg, thank you so much for extending the gift of your time. The conference and this partnership, it aligns with Pacifica's vision in several ways. And I really wanted to get into the AI question, by the way, but anyway, I will leave that alone. But when I think about our strategic vision of, for making depth psychological education or research and services universally, accessible, it is a big commitment. And our commitment to forward-thinking scholarship is evident in the dynamic research taking place at Pacifica today. I will also say that while we're all intimately involved in this vision that we have launched and communicated recently, it is still a vision that's in progress. And so I did some research last night into the work of our faculty. So we have faculty publications around this topic. We have, and presentations, we have student dissertations and theses. And hopefully, Laura Lee, I'll ask you to probably put the link in this video so people can, review the materials at their leisure. But the research that's happening here, it's already happening here. And so this partnership ties neatly with this vision of taking this work, making it universally accessible to every single person. It helps us to explore this, how the psychedelic integration process. I saw research around the mythic dimensions of the 60s psychedelia. That's happening here. This research is taking place. There's the efficacy of the relationality in psychedelic community healing. And this underscores, again, our dedication to cutting edge scholarship and inquiry. In addition to the conference, the Pacifica community has produced impactful work related to psychedelics. Again, including, we have our counseling, the MA counseling thesis. We have notable alumni who contribute towards this topic. For example, I came across works where one of our alumni explore the role of music in psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, and it's a transformative approach to therapy.
Yes.
There's a comprehensive book on integral psychedelic therapy, which is authored by one of our Pacifica alums. Also, just so our listening, learning, and watching audience is aware, our alumni are also actively incorporating psychedelic research into their practice. And this exemplifies, again, Pacifica's commitment around this topic and this forward-thinking scholarship, right? I'm excited about what will come out of this conference, both for the IAAP as well as Pacifica's work around, especially as we maintain academic excellence. So I think that the conference aligned pretty well with Pacifica's vision of making depth psychology accessible to all. But in addition, it also aligns with our strategic plan goals. Our strategic plan coming in 2024 is Onward Together. And we have 4 pillars. And the first one is we want to expand Pacifica's impact. And again, this conference is part of expanding our impact. Number 2, we want to elevate learner outcomes. Number 3, empower organizational development. And then number 4, enhance fiscal sustainability. So I think when we think about all the work that we have done in the past, what's happening now, and what we have planned for the future, I'm excited, I'm thrilled, and so appreciative of this conference and this partnership with the IAAP.
Thank you. So, Dr. Lee, thank you. And yes, we have a tremendous response from the Pacifica student body. And as Dr. Lee was saying, a number of our students are working on dissertations already connected to this. Our alums have written and published dissertations with this. We will have a number of Pacifica graduate students who have been scholarshiped in attendance at the conference. And that's part of our commitment to elevate our learner outcomes and really be able to offer our students as much as we can. So thank you both. This has been, again, just a wonderful conversation that I wish could continue more. I look forward to more on this topic in particular with the two of you, depth leadership in these times. Mr. Berg, we cannot wait to welcome you with open arms to the beautiful Pacifica campus and wish you a time of just a chance to just really relax and take it in, as well as getting to know us in a genuine and a soulful way. That's a wonderful opportunity for all of us. Dr. Lee, thank you again for your continued visionary and creative leadership and your commitment to making this conference happen. So thank you both. And thank you to our listeners who will be watching this. If you are not already registered, you can visit our website. We're close to selling out right now for the on-campus part of this conference, but you can still register for the live streaming of this. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Berg and Dr. Lee. Take care, all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Mr. Berg. See you soon.
Bye-bye.